Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. Alaikum assalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Doctor, we would like to know Islamic family.
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala sayyidina Muhammadin al-Fatihil Khatim wa ala alihi akdamil azim. Assalamu alaikum, alhamdulillah. We thank the Almighty Allah. Well, as you are aware, alhamdulillah, thanks to the Almighty Allah. My name is Bashir Sheikh Usman Bauchi, and I happen to be from a family that has the tradition of memorizing the Holy Quran at the early age, right from our grandfather Alhaji Usman, who happened to be a great Quranic scholar, and he enrolled his child, Maulana Sheikh Usman Bauchi, into the same school. And he trained him in Quranic memorization, exegesis, and other fields of Islamic knowledge. Then, when he grew up and established a family, so he continued with this tradition of having his children memorizing the Holy Quran at the early age. Though we are quite many, I happen to be the ninth of the family of over 80 children. And I was born on 26th of April 1975. That was 50 years ago, at least with some. I just clocked 50 last month, alhamdulillah. And in fact, one cannot tell when one got enrolled in such school, because we were taken to the school at a very, very early age. Before we know anything, I grew up seeing myself in the school, learning the Holy Quran from our Malam. That is, he will be reciting the verse, he will ask us to recite after him, then we try to commit it to our memories, that we cram it. Then before we started learning how to write or how to read, I think I have memorized up to 23 hizbs without being able to write. I did not acquire the skill of writing until after I finished memorizing 23 hizbs of the Holy Quran. Then, at the age of 9, we were taken to Maiduguri, Borno State, to the Quranic Memorization Center of Gwani and Kellori, of blessed memory, Sheikh Gwani and Kellori. And it was in that school that I learned the art of writing. That is, I started learning. I could still remember when our Malam said that today you have to write you have to write it yourself. So I wrote it, and that's how I started learning how to write. And then after we spent some 6 months there, although our father, Sheikh Usman Bauchi, rented a house for us where we would stay and made an arrangement for our feeding. Although our teachers said, suggested that if we are not allowed to intermingle with the rest of Al-Majlis there, we might feel superior, which will definitely will not augur well with our growing up as students. So they suggested that once in a while, we should be allowed to go along with Al-Majlis to intermingle with them, so that that will help in humbling us. And Alhamdulillah, after having spent 6 months there, we got back to Bauchi. And I could still remember that there is, in fact, no any type of school that I had never got enrolled into. Most of those we attended Quranic school at the early age, Makarantan Allo. Most of them, I did not see them in our Islamic colleges, most of them, with the exception of very few. And almost all of those we attended Quranic school with, and of course, Islamic colleges, I did not see them in my classes of Western education. I met entirely at different people. In fact, some of them, of course, non-Muslims, even among the teachers. So whenever I reflect on my life, I thank the Almighty Allah that there is no any school in this country, whether Makaranta Allo, Islamia, Boko, or whatever it is named, that I have never got enrolled into. Alhamdulillah.
So, Doctor, talking about going through the Al-Majdi system, what was your experience when you went to Maiduguri, growing up for that 6 months experiencing the Al-Majdi life? How was it?
Alhamdulillah, I always feel happy whenever I always think about that with nostalgia, that we will be, they will wake us up very early in the morning, around 5 a.m. In fact, before we speak to anybody, they will ask us after prayers to start reading. I can still remember there is this kind of prayer, not prayer, so to say. There are some faida, they call it. In English, I don't think it has a name. They used to write it on our palms, and we will continue reading. Then after the sunrise, then we'll be asked to lick it and continue reading. Some verses of the Holy Quran would be written on our palms. And that is that. Anyway, and the experience was quite great, because of course in those days we see Al-Majlis begging, although for us, Maulana Sheikh made a special provision for us, Alhamdulillah, though we intermingle with them. And I could still remember I had an aunt there in Maiduguri, who happened to be the wife of Sheikh Abdul Fatih radiallahu anhu, of blessed memory. I used to visit her on weekly basis. On Thursdays, I used to visit her after Maghrib and stayed there. So because we speak full day, whenever I visit her, she will communicate to me in full day. She happened to be like a sister to my mother. So she reminded me of my mother. Whenever I visited her, I felt at home. So then she will give me some money and I will come back to Sangaya, where we stay. And sometimes when it is late in the night, I used to sleep on the roadside sometimes before Allah, because I would be so tired that I wouldn't even I would be too tired to continue with the trek. So I will just sleep off sometimes. And I used to sleep there without any fear, because in those days, the the security system of the country was working, at least much better than now. So, and I will arrive there, I will arrive home. So whenever I see her nowadays, she used to remind me of those beautiful days, because not quite a long ago I saw her when I visited Adamawa State. I used to respect her so much. And then after we came back, having finished my memorization, which was my greatest aspiration in those days, because I wanted to impress my father. I used to look up to him. I'm still looking up to him. I always want to please him. So I know that nothing will make him happier than seeing me memorizing the Holy Quran. So I was looking forward to the day I will finish my memorization. Due to my eagerness to complete my memorization, I once sat down and counted the days or the years that would remain for me to finish. As young as 10 years old child, I was so ambitious. In fact, I used to feel that how I wish I can finish the memorization much earlier. So I finished at the age of 11. That was 1986. And I was happy. The day I finished, he was not around. I was waiting for him to inform him. As soon as he came back, I went to his apartment and screamed, "Baba, I have finished my memorization." I told him in full day. So he picked me up the way children are being picked up by their parents, and hugged me. And then he brought out some money and he gave me. He said, "This money I just give you out of to show you my happiness. Go and spend it where you like." In fact, it was quite uncommon for us to be allowed to spend money the way we want at that early age because of the moral training. But because that day, Sheikh was so intentional that he wanted to show me his happiness, that this money, I am free to spend it, because we had it as a culture that even if I am given money as a small boy, I must take the money to my mother. I must go and give it to my mother. If I'm reported spending any money, even if it's my money that I'm given, I will be punished. I shouldn't have any business with money. That was the training. Whatever I need, it should be provided, but I shouldn't even know the source, whether it is money, whether it is what. No.
Definitely, I think that is an experience you will not forget.
I will never forget.
But still, back to Maiduguri. In that 6 months, there must be something that you still remember that you've never forgotten when you were in Maiduguri.
When I was in Maiduguri, it coincided the crisis of N.T.A as at that time, around 1984-85. We were taken there around January 1985. So the remnants of the crisis, though N.T.A was killed some years earlier than that, but the reprisal, the aftermath of N.T.A crisis reached out to Maiduguri and some other places. It broke out to most of the cities of the north. And as a result of that, the military administration of Muhammadu Buhari took a very drastic measure, drastic position. It took measures that are quite drastic in nature, because I think they started raiding Sangaya schools, because N.T.A portrayed himself as a Quranic scholar. So that, brought a lot of problem for Sangaya schools, because they were being raided by military officers. They would pick them up. So one terrible experience that I will never forget was one Friday in Maiduguri. Imagine a child at the age of 8+, because it was in January. I was waiting for at least 1984, I would only clock 9 years, that is April that same year. So while we were there in our Sangha, we were told that some military officers came and they flogged one drunkard somewhere. And when we heard about that, we felt happy. Of course, by our tradition and culture, a drunkard needed some discipline. That yes, it was so good for someone to drink wine to get intoxicated. But when we were told that they were there, they came to us and they came before my very eyes. I saw them. In fact, that was my first experience with Nigerian military. The first time I saw Nigerian military officers with their uniform. Because in those days, you don't see military officers. You only see police officers. Military officers are in the barrack. So they came and picked someone from our Sangha. And one Arama was reading, the Holy Quran while seated, under a tree. They came and shouted at him, "What are you doing here? Were you not told that that this is banned?" Because in their drive to flush out Tasini people, so they ended up raiding Sangha schools and considering them part of perhaps the problem, which was not so. And they picked him. That chap that was picked, I considered him a role model. I was not praying to be rich, neither was I praying to be any politician or anything. No, my utmost prayer, my utmost aspiration is to grow up to be like that man that was being flogged by military officers. Imagine a boy at the age of 9 being or seeing his role model being molested, flogged and picked by military officers. Then you can imagine how his dreams will be shattered. I say, if this man is the man that I'm looking forward to be like, I take him as my role model, as my exemplary model, and at his stage now, he can be maltreated. Then I started crying. I burst into tears. I ran to my elderly brothers, crying to them that they should take me to Bauchi. I will not stay there. In fact, it took them hours to calm me down. In fact, with a promise that tomorrow, first in the morning, I'll be taken back to Bauchi.
They struggle, they go out to beg for food, go out to beg for so much of their needs. When your madam said you should be allowed to move, were you also
not so, but only that we have sufficient provision of food and supplies, everything. But what he did was that sometimes they will ask us to follow them so as to feel like them, not out of need, not even to beg, but just to feel that we are as ordinary as they are. That was the wisdom. So they asked us to go around with them to see how they beg and participate with them so as to feel as ordinary as any Almajiri. But we have sufficient supply of food and everything, alhamdulillah. And I can still remember one Hajia just like you. And I was very small boy. Her frame just like you. And I was just as small as that boy. And she saw me in at Chiskali, there, what you call Chiskali. Chiskali, is a place just like a bush where Al-Majlis used to go to stay there and read, spend the whole day reading, Then in the evening, they will come back home. So we used to go there early in the morning with our allo and go and read under the trees. And then in the evening, we'll come back. So she saw me, a very tiny child, and of course, very slim. And she, out of, sympathy, she said, this boy, I feel that your mother, I don't think your mother was happy when you were taken out of home because you are too tiny to be taken out of home. Of course, I was well taken care of in terms of food and everything, and even where we would stay. But she just felt like that. She picked me. She took me to her house. She said, this is my house. Whatever you need, just come here. I just followed her because I needed a mother figure. So whenever I see a woman old enough to be my mother, I feel that I found a mother. I could still remember just before we jump, when I was doing my PhD, when I was in Malaysia for my PhD, my second supervisor happened to be a woman. And she told me that I am your mother here in Malaysia. I was happy. In fact, I might be even older than her. Of course, she wouldn't understand because of my looks. She might feel that she was older, but I don't know. I don't know for age. But I was happy. So I felt happy that at my early age of learning, I got mothers in Meduguri. At my advanced stage of learning in PhD, I got another mother in Malaysia.
So after struggling from Quranic school here, at home, you moved to Meduguri and back home.
Yes.
So when you came back home, what was the next step?
Well, when we came back, we completed because Sheikh wanted to send us back after the break. We came back for a break. After Ramadan, after Eid al-Fitr, he wanted to send back. And we started crying, no, Baba, we don't want to go back. We prefer staying home. Although, in fact, I made a personal request to my father, as at the time they were going, that is the first time we were going. It was on my own request that I joined them. Not that my father wanted to send me because I was too small. But I personally requested that, please, we want to follow them. Sheikh said, no, you are too young. Go and ask your mother. When I went and asked her, she said, no, whatever Sheikh said. I said, please, just say yes, say yes. I will go and tell him that you say yes. Then I went. But when we arrived there, in fact, because of the strange environment and, of course, strange people and the way I'm mannered, because I have never been exposed. I've never been exposed to I've never been exposed to a strange environment. So that is why when we come back, we said, no, we don't want to go back. So Sheikh said he will buy another house at the suburb area of Bauchi and will take us there. We'll be spending the whole week there. We'll come back only home on weekends. Weekends in Islamic schools is Thursdays and Fridays. So we used to come back for the weekends and we'll go back Friday evening. Then we'll come back on Wednesday evening. So that was how, after we finished our memorization, after I finished my memorization, the first thing she did was to send me to go and get snapped. He asked me to get a photograph, an instant photograph that would reflect my age, my everything. Then he turned the photograph and he wrote. He wrote in Arabic, this is Muhammad al-Bashir, Ibn Sheikh Tahir Usman Bauchi, Ibn Tahir Bauchi, memorized the Holy Quran, this date, 1986, he wrote the Arabic date corresponding that particular date. Then he got a copy of the Holy Quran, he wrote the same, and he asked me to take that holy book, the copy of the holy book, and that picture to my mother to keep as, yes. So after that, we were taken to Kano so as to further our education that allows us to improve the strength of our memorization. We were taken to the Tsangaya of Malan Salisu Ruwansa in Goron Dutse. It was sited in just behind Sheikh Isaac Rabi's Masjid of Goron Dutse. In fact, the karatu used to be conducted in the compound that's adjacent to the masjid. So there is just like postgraduate school of Quranic memorization. I joined as the youngest student because all of my colleagues there, most of them are old enough to be my fathers. I was the youngest of all. Our Malam used to say, look at this boy. He can hardly take off his slate, his allu. But he is the one that, but yet he can write it. He can write the allu. That is from his memory. So, and he used to encourage me, alhamdulillah. And Sheikh used to visit us once in a while. He will ask me to bring my allo. He will read it. He will see the contents. He will make some corrections and observations on how to improve because the culture is that you have to, having memorized was not enough in those days. You have to write it from Baqarah up to Surah An-Nas offhead. That is from your memory. And then you keep writing it from Baqarah up to Nas until you reach a level, a stage where a stage of proficiency, where you can write it as a copy of the Holy Quran on paper. So alhamdulillah, I reached that stage. I wrote it on that. I wrote my own copy. I was placed under the supervision of one Aram Malam Idi of blessed memory. Now he is no more. He residing here in Bauchi. Maulana Sheikh placed us under his supervision. You know, you can only write the Holy Quran under someone's supervision. Just like thesis of PhD. It must be supervised. So he used to supervise our writings. He used to make corrections, suggestions, until when we finish. In fact, I think I did not finish. It was some 10 hizibs that were left also. Then I stopped there.
Seeing from your Quranic school here at home to and there, back home and to another and there for further studies, how did you transition from the Islamic school to the Western school?
Well, there was a bridge because I did not just jump from Quranic school to Western school. What happened was that I finished my Quranic memorization without even being, that is, without being able to understand Arabic very well. So after having finished my Quranic education, I started with Arabic education at the hands of my teacher, Dr. Hadi Sheikh Bauchi, blessed memory, and others, Malams. And I studied Arabic grammar, that's An-Nahw al-Arabi, then Arabic syntax, etymological mechanisms, and so on. That is now Saraf, and so on. So after that, we were taken to Karatun Zaure. That's why I told you that I'm very happy that there is no any kind of school that I've never attended. Right from Makanta Allo to Karatun Zaure to Islamic, higher Islamic, up to Western. That is, I ended up with Western education. So we were taken to Kasar Gondu, to Sarkin Malaman Gondu of those days. Is of blessed memory, is no more. Mala Umar Ika. My brother and I, Dr. Surumbai, were taken there. We studied Maliki, jurisprudence. That's the dominant school of thought here. Then we studied books like Izziya, Risala, and so on. With regard to Arabic lexicography, al-Lugha al-Arabiya, we studied from Al-Burda, Ishiriniya, and so on. Then when we came back, my elderly brother wanted to go to Egypt to further his education, and he got a visa, he got admission, he went. For me, I stayed here, then I got a role in higher Islamic here, Alhaji Usman College for Arabic and Islamic Studies. So, and our Malam, Dr. Hadi Sheikh Usman Bauchi, used to teach us books on Islamic knowledge in Arabic and in English. So he used to give us translations of books of hadith and tafsir, fiqh in English. He will ask us to memorize. If it is hadith, he will ask us to memorize. If it is verse of the Holy Quran in English, he will ask us to memorize, just the way we memorize the Holy Quran. So after that, when I finished the college, then I moved to Ahmadu Bello University for my diploma in Arabic and Islamic education. When I finished the diploma, then I continued with my Karatun Zaure in Zaria at the hands of Malam Muhammad Dan Sakano of Zaria. Is still alive. So I consulted Sheikh on whether I can, if I can change to Western education. I asked him. He said, there's no problem. I can continue with my Islamic education at home. Then I had to go back to secondary school to prepare myself for senior secondary school certificate. Then
what age was that?
I was well over 20 at that age. Because of my frame, just the way I look, very few people will believe that I'm 50. You understand? So they used to take me just as their age mate. Wherever I go, students of below the age of 20, around 16, 17, 18, they will think that I will just fit into them as so I had to go back after finishing my diploma. I had to go back to secondary school to write my SSCE. Then I wrote and I passed. So my problem now, I did not write JAM that year. What happened was that I registered for Joint Admission and Matriculation Board exams. And all of a sudden, while having prepared for the exam, I received a call from Sheikh. He asked me, where are you? I said, I'm in Kaduna waiting to write my JAM exam. He said, but I have an occasion that I want you to attend for me on Saturday, the same day that the JAM exam will be written. I said, okay. So what would you do? Say, okay, then I have to forfeit the exams. He said, is there no any other way? I say, sir, it can be only written once in a year. If I cannot write it this year, I have to wait till another year. Then, as at that time, I was in SBRS, School of Basic and Remedial Studies, Funtua. They asked us to write JAM so that if we do not pass the exam of SBRS, we can use our JAM result to get admission. So when I see that I can sense some streak of disappointment in his voice because we were talking on phone. I said, whatever you want, sir, I'm ready. If I can forfeit the exams, I can do it next year. Okay. In that case, then you should prepare and go to Kano to go and represent me on an occasion there. So I had to forfeit the exam and go. Most of my colleagues said, no, you need to explain to him the significance of the exams. You are many. He can send someone. I said, yes. He understood that I had an exam. But when I see some insistence, I told him that I can forfeit the exam. I don't want him to forfeit what he wants just for what I want. So I went and I asked for his prayers that I want him to pray for me to pass the SBRS exam. So that will be my only hope to get admission that year. So I passed the exams and they gave us admission with my SSCE. They gave us admission into, I applied for, I had the opportunity of getting admission to study political science or international studies or law. So I went and asked him for an advice. I said, these are the options that I have. He said, go and study international studies. So when the admission came out, I was admitted to study law, not international studies. I was given admission to study law. So I went and told him that, but my admission came that I was given admission to study law in Ahmadu Bello University. He said, no, go and ask them to change your admission to give you international studies. So I went and pleaded with the admission officer to change my admission. So they changed it and I studied international studies. Even in the midst of the school, I used to receive his call to send me to represent him on quite a number of occasions. So I used to have this, I used to call it clash of values. I don't know where I got the word from, but that was what crept into my mind. Because I will visit, I used to be in school as an undergraduate student in social sciences. You know how the classes are? We intermingle with everybody, Muslims, non-Muslims, men, women, and so on. So you get a seat wherever you find a seat to attend the class and so on. And the next day, Sheikh will delegate me to represent him on a grand occasion. Then I will wear my turban, I will wear this abaya, and people will be just falling down to greet me as representative of Sheikh. And the next day, I will be in class with even a female lecturer. And whenever she addresses me, I say, yes, ma. Then the following day, I will be, representation on a grand occasion. And I will see people old enough to be my parents falling down, greeting me as representative of Sheikh and asking me for my prayers, asking me about certain things, or that is they ask me about fatwa or anything. And the following day, I'll be in class just like, so those I attend the class with will never have the experience I had just yesterday. And those who attended the gathering that I addressed yesterday, none of them will be here. So you can see, I call it clash of values. I don't know how to call it. So that was the experience. So I used to go. In fact, there was a time because I used to conduct tafsir on his behalf in Kaduna, in his Jumat Mosque Student Wada, even while I was undergraduate. In fact, before I even go to the university, I used to represent him on tafsir in Kaduna. I started in 1999. So when I went there, my colleagues, some of them would say, why not you the one I saw yesterday on N.T.A. conducting tafsir on Sheikh's seat? Why not you the one? Some of them I would tell them, yes, some of them, I would just go. Because I feel I shouldn't be, I don't want them to feel, to change their attitude towards me. I want them to continue taking me as their colleague. I don't want them to start treating me differently just because I represented Sheikh on such occasions. At the same time, they make me feel uncomfortable when they say, I saw you, and so on. I just want to.
Having all this experience, How has it shaped your life?
Well, I thank the Almighty Allah because quite, I can still remember, there was a time we were in class while I was undergraduate. Our professor, our lecturer was trying to define the concept of birthright to power. That is a political science class. So he wanted to explain to us how the two religions, Islam and Christianity, supported the argument of the fact that the Almighty Allah gives power to whomsoever He wants. So in the class, he started with the Christian faithfuls. He asked them, there is a particular verse in the Bible that says that power belongs to Almighty Allah. He gives it to whomsoever He wishes. He cited the verse. He mentioned the verse number, the chapter number, and everything. Is there anyone in this class that can stand up and read the verse from in the Bible? One Christian student rose up and he brought out a copy of the Bible from his pocket and opened and read out to our hearing, all of us. The class was full. And he turned to the Muslim students. Is there anyone that can recite to us the verse in the Holy Quran chapter 3, so verse that explains that power belongs to Almighty Allah, gives to whomsoever I wish? Who can recite the verse? They all kept quiet and I stood up. He asked me, where is your copy of the Holy Quran? I said, no, I cram it. I have committed it to my memory. I carried it from my memory. He said, well, go ahead. So I recited the verse as it is, the original verse. So some students started shouting, no, we don't understand. The professor asked them to keep quiet. When I finished reciting, up to the end, then he said, then the interpretation. Then I interpreted. So the Muslim students were so jubilant. They were so happy that because I would have missed the class. There might be some class that I missed. This would have been one of those classes. But it happened that I was around. And none of the members of the class memorized the Holy Quran except me. So, and Muslims, we don't move around with the copies of the Holy Quran because of its sanctity. We feel that it's improper to move around with the copy of the Holy Quran everywhere. With a copy of the Holy Quran everywhere. So that is that. So when we came out, the student was so happy. They thanked me so much. I said, no, in fact, if not for the wish of the Almighty Allah, I would have even missed the class. But fortunately, I was around and the professor is no more. He too is of blessed memory. Professor Ayodumoy of Ebu Zaria.
Saying it has shaped your life, your imaginary system.
Yes.
So what has it also shaped other? We know we have other children in the imaginary system.
Yes.
What opportunities does it open for them too?
Well, it was so impactful, so much so that whenever I hear the voice of an Almajiri begging in my house, in any of my houses, because my families do not stay in one place, in any of my houses. So I used to be the first to come out and give him food. And I will insist, even if they say the food is not ready or it has finished, and whose food is do we have here, whose portion of food is do we have around, that Almighty must have something. When there is no food, we must get him some money. Whenever they say, why are you so insistent? I say, because you have never been there. And I have been there. I know how it feels I moved around on the street of Maiduguri. Although we were not beggars. We did not beg, alhamdulillah. We were well provided. Yet we saw how they struggled to get what to eat. And we followed them. We saw how they suffered.
Saying the Almajiri system 40 years back, when you were in the system,
yes,
or when you were opportune to have some glimpse, since it's just 6 months in the system, and the Almajiri system we have now, what are the differences?
Quite a lot, because in those days, you know, the security system in the country was much better. People felt more secure. People were their neighbors' keepers. Children were children of all, for all, children of all, and for all to take care of. No child will be, you know, just forsaken. Every father feels responsible for every child. And even if it's a non-Muslim father, if he sees a Muslim child, he will feel responsible towards him. He will make sure that that child is taken care of. So that was the life we lived 40 years ago. And now it becomes so dangerous to allow them to continue the way they were in the past, because of the obvious reasons of security challenges, you understand, picking them up. If children in their parents' home in Kano would be reported missing, that they were taken away to some other parts of the country and had their religion and their names changed by those who took them, who kidnapped them. So what more of children roaming the streets of Kano whose parents were not there?